So is that a green light that if you a single mom, you don't need to submit to anybody? There is no, and again, it's what that word means to somebody. But from your background, like, how do you feel about that word submit?
I mean, I have submitted. Don't get it twisted. I mean, it's kind of like what they were saying. It's a give and take. Like, what are you doing to make me want to do whatever you asking of me? And I have been in positions where men have said, "Oh, you're too loud," or "You're doing too much," or "Why are you dressing like that?" or "Why are you acting too masculine?" And it's like, I can't help the way that I am. I mean, and it could be intimidation for some men as well. They want their woman to be quiet, and you might be pretty, and they don't want too many people looking at you, or whatever the case. But at the end of the day, like I said, I'm gonna be me regardless. But yeah, if he's doing something that I feel like in the relationship that we can compromise on, of course I'm going to submit. I think for some women it does come naturally. You know what I'm saying? So, to each his own.
I grew up in a house where my mom was a stay-at-home mom. My stepdad raised my brother and I, and then my mother and my stepdad had 3 other children, and my mom stayed at home with the kids. I remember her never being very happy, and I always remember her, when she did have an opinion or express an opinion, I remember it being in an aggressive way, and them always having like a big blow up fight, right? So like those are the bits and pieces that I remember from my childhood, but I carried that into my adult relationship. So my first husband, whom I conceived my first child with, first of all, he was shit from the start, period. Like, very sociopathic tendencies, but that was normal to me because that was the household that I was raised in. He was a spitting image of my stepfather. This was normal. There were no red flags, right? I met this man in high school. We went to college together. We got married together. I got pregnant with my daughter. And this whole time, I'm working. I'm trying to go to school. I'm trying to raise an infant. I am literally a child. I am doing this man's homework while he's on a full ride football scholarship, taking care of this house, making sure food is on the table, doing all of these submissive things, being this embodiment of, what a wife should be, never asking where you are, where you're going, what are you doing, and getting treated like garbage repeatedly. And it wasn't until I left that situation and became the person who I'm meant to be and the person that I am, and I am a masculine woman, but I wouldn't say that I'm like the head of the household or like the dominant figure in my home. I would say my husband and I very much have look, today I only got 40%, you got to have 60 or however you want to say it. But it wasn't until I stood up and said, these are the things that I'm not taking. I am not being passive to somebody because of their sex or because I want to be loved. I bring just as much to the table as you. I'm going to take care of the kids, and you're going to take care of the kids. I am not the default parent, person, species for anything in this household. And it wasn't until I made those changes and chose to like live in that embodiment that I found a partner that was worthy of even being in my presence, let alone being able to have a healthy relationship with me. So I feel like this term submissive is a terroristic term. And I think that the term that we should be speaking of is compromise and trust and respect. Yes. Like I am not submissive in a relationship, and I have a very healthy relationship, but I'm not going to blindly follow my husband over a cliff because he has a penis or he brings in more money than I do.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, so Jasmine, you were just talking about the 60-40 thing. So earlier we were talking about Brene Brown, and she has a talk or a video, and she talks about that the 50-50 relationship thing is utter bullshit, right? So in a relationship, like sometimes they quantify, right? Like, okay, I have 20 today, you've got, and she's like, I got you, dude, I got the 80, right? Like I can only show up 20% and he's got the other 80%. And then sometimes in relationships, I only have 20 and he only has 10, right?
And we ordered pizza.
We have to sit down and figure out where we're getting the other 70% and be kind to each other and how we're going to like run the household, how we're going to do things that we need to do. And she says that's what a relationship is. Yes. That's how you show up. That's all the things of compromising and loving one another and all the other stuff that we're kind of talking about. And that's not submitting. That's just being real and honest. Like, I've only got 50 today. What do you got? Yeah. Can you pull us or not? And how can we figure out if we can't? So it's very interesting to me, the submission, because my relationship is not like that either. Like, we both are like, okay, I only got this today or only got this. What do we need to do? How are we going to get through life? It's hard enough without somebody trying to lead and say submit.
Another example, if I could jump in again, like in my marriage now, it's very healthy balance, and that's, I feel like, what it should look like compromising on big decisions. And I think it's whatever affects you the most. Like, we both pay our own bills separately with our own jobs, and I pay for my kids, he pays for his kids, and I discipline my kids, he disciplines his kids. You know, whatever the decision affects more, that's the one who gets the final say. Like, there was a huge financial decision, I didn't really care for it, and I didn't think we could afford it, but he could with his money, and he said, this is what we're doing. I said, okay, it's your money, you do that. But with my money, I'm gonna do my thing. And like, for parenting, like, there's my kid and there's an issue, and he doesn't agree with the way I'm handling it, but it's like, it's my kid. Biologically, this one's mine. So I step off on his and he steps off on mine. So that's just, whenever it affects you more, that's when you have the final say. It's the way we do it in our household. So we just move as one.
That, I like that. You move as one.
Yeah, not in competition or control. Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what percentage you're at.
Right.
You're still moving as one. Yeah. I love that.
And there's times when I feel like crap when I get home from work, and he'll do dinner and take care of the kids at night, you know, and there's times when he's exhausted and I'll step up. We just take turns, whoever's feeling it that day. So that's the way it works for us.
I like that too, move as one. So for me, I, just because of my past, right, had definitely not a great, healthy relationship for a really long time. But I was doing everything, right? He was out partying, enjoying his life, living his best life, right? And I was holding down the fort. I was working sometimes 2, even 3 jobs and going to school and taking care of kids, you know, trying to better my life. So I was, when it came to me and mine, I was the boss, you know? So kind of goes back to that single mom. But even though, like, he was in and out of my life for years and years, I mean decades actually, and I loved him. You know, when he came in the house, like, he thought he was the boss, but at the end of the day, we was bumping heads and I was doing what I wanted. Okay? So then fast forward, and then you get into like a healthier environment, not a toxic relationship, right? Not codependent, not substances everywhere. Not me. I didn't have a substance issue, just a codependent issue, you know what I'm saying? So you get into a health, like, I've grown, like, you know, I've learned quite a bit. So you get into a healthy relationship, and all of a sudden it's kind of like, whoa, like, where do my feet go? Like, I'm the boss. Oh, wait, I'm in a partnership, or are you the boss? So for me having to tiptoe around that, it's uncomfortable. And if you have to have a man that's willing to communicate, that's willing to listen. So there's been a couple times when he might be talking, and I might go to say something, and very sternly he'll be like, "Stop talking, I'm talking, you need to listen." And my initial response is like, "You got the wrong one." And I could, like, I could start, the old me would get all kinds of unflattering words and a whole new level of loudness. But because he shows me the respect that when he is done making his point, he allows me a limited amount of time to say my piece. And then, like, I'll go. Once it's my turn to go, I will talk. And I will talk to the point where I'm like, okay, there's nothing left to say, right? And then he'll be like, "Are you finished?" And I'm like, "Yeah." But because he allows me that same respect, like, I have learned to not flip out when he's like, you need to let me finish. So I just think that you have to find that healthy balance in any relationship. You have to find the healthy, right? And if one person is toxic, and that's, I mean, I can't give you a percentage of relationships in America, but there is a lot of unhealthy women and there is a lot of unhealthy men, and there are definitely toxic relationships, right? So you have to find that healthy and then learn to tiptoe that line between what is good for you, what is good for them, and can you communicate and come to an agreement? Because at the end of the day, I can honestly say, even though I'm getting used to this like man who has a say, and he's a strong male presence and he brings a lot to the table, I have had to learn to be able to settle myself in what he wants and what I want, but we do a really good job of falling asleep with both of us feeling like we're good. Even though, I'm gonna keep it real, sometimes it takes a while to work through these things. It's not like, no, really fast, this is gonna happen. Okay, well, this is why I don't want it to happen. No, sometimes it's hours. I'm like, and like 3 hours later, we're still talking through stuff. But at the end of the night, I feel good and he feels good, and we're like, dang, we just accomplished that. We just climbed that mountain together.
Teamwork.
Like I have peace, you know? And so I feel like, now, is that, I don't know if I'm submissive, like, cause I mean, I fight him till we get to the top of the mountain, but I do appreciate it.
Yeah, to be heard. Every human has that need. That's beautiful. That's true love.
But is it submission?
No.
I think so.
Okay, good, because I'm like, I'm really struggling with it.
You mutually compromised and respected each other. That's mutual submission.
And sometimes just speaking up and saying, no, hey, listen to me until I'm finished. I don't know that that's like submitting, because I naturally dominate conversations with my husband because he is a lot quieter, and I'm just kind of like that. And sometimes he'll be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, let me get out what I need to say too, you know, and then I have to process and say something, because other's I'll just dominate the conversation. I don't know that that's submissive though. You know?
had asked, like, I don't even remember how you asked it, but you basically were like, when did this change? When did we stop being submissive? And when you were speaking, it made me think about, and I don't think that this is only my experience. I think this is like a generational experience, but millennials, our parents were not emotionally available.
At all.
And I feel like as adults, men and women, we are having to learn some skills that we should have learned as children.
Yeah.
And that's also why we can't find this like level playing ground, right? So it's like, it's not that we're being submissive or not being submissive. We're needing to learn how to communicate and compromise, because we didn't have people communicating and compromising with us. We were being directed and told to obey and not to have an opinion and not to speak. And now we're adults and we think that we're supposed to be directive and have somebody obey to us and not speak, and we're the authoritarian. And I think what you were describing there was you and your partner learning how to do what we're supposed to be doing.
That's good.
And both learning at the same time.
Right.
Like that dynamic, right? Like both learning to like speak up for your needs and wants and desires in a way that you're heard.
So what are like some red flags? Like, let's say some younger girls, right? Some teenagers happen to peek in, and what are some red flags of like, you want to stay away from that? That's probably a narcissist. That's someone who's not going to take you into consideration.
If you think he's trying to start a fight with you, he is trying to start a fight with you.
Yeah.
So he can do something because he was mad at you. That's a narcissist.
I also think controlling even the smallest of things to me is red flags, right? So controlling like who you hang out with, like the things you wear, like those small things to me are they're very subtle, but those are definitely red flags. And I don't mean like influencing, because young relationships, they do that, right? Like boyfriends have a lot of influence on girlfriend. I mean, it's just that age range. I feel like, but the like small things of like controlling, like who you are around, like what you wear, what you're doing, maybe what you listen to, like those types of things. That to me is red flags. If you're talking about like submission or control and, you know, wanting someone to be what you want them to be personally, like that's what I think.
I think a red flag as well is like, I try to tell my little cousins and my little siblings, I don't know if anybody else feels like this, but it feels like maybe I don't know if it's us millennials or Gen Z, but we always have these memes that are like when he's commenting on another girl's picture, and we're like, haha, and I'm like, that's a red flag. Like anybody telling you anything about what you're posting on social media, you know, take this down, those are red flags. And I think a lot of younger people experience that, and I see it being posted, especially on TikTok. It's like, you all are in, girl, free yourself, get out of that quickly. Like, you are being held hostage by this young boy telling you what to do. And I think that there's a lot of red pill content. There are a lot of like podcasts that are like centered around male opinions that a lot of younger guys are consuming. Think Like a Man, what's that book? Think Like a Man, something like that. All these different things that put men in positions of power, and they have these tools that they can use to like control women. A lot of them are consuming it at a young age. They're 12 and they're 13 and they're consuming this content, and little young girls are impressionable and they want boyfriends, and they're doing anything to like get these boys, and they don't even realize what's happening to them at a young age. And,
so what if you flip it and the girlfriend or the wife is like, why did you like that picture?
And it's toxic as well.
Absolutely.
You're
the
wrong.
Same thing.
You're wrong, girl.
Yep.
So a wife should be perfectly okay with her husband harding any form of photo on social media, and if she has a problem with it, then she's toxic.
I don't like the black and white thing.
Yeah, that's
there.
a whole
That's
other
black and white,
but okay. So you're saying that there's levels to this.
I mean, there's always gray areas personally. You know, if you're hearting someone's family picture,
Okay.
like, right? Okay, no.
All right.
I mean, but I'm sure for everyone, what my level of comfort may not be like hers, right? Or someone else's, you know. I think that's where you
What if
compromise and you talk
your
about it.
only history is hurting bikini models?
Right. That's another.
That's a problem.
Then to me, that's an issue, right? Like, that would be an issue with me. Like, why are you doing that? To me, that's disrespectful. That's uncomfortable. Why? You know? I don't know. Other people be like, go ahead, do your thing. It's social media, whatever. It's not your life. I don't know.
Yeah,
You know?
I don't know that I care.
Yeah. And see, some people may not.
But could it be the same way with a male saying, I really don't feel comfortable with the photos you're posting of yourself?
And I think it's different. We talked about this last time. I think it's different when you're in a marriage, right? Versus like if you're dating.
Or a teenager.
Right, or a teenager, right? So we talked about that too. Like in a marriage, I think the dynamics are a lot different than if you're dating or a teenager.
So why would it be different for a teenager?
Well, okay, let me say this. It wouldn't be different. But I think immediate red flags as a teenager, like, why am I 13, 14, 15 going through all these relationship problems at a young age? I shouldn't even be dealing with this.
Yeah.
I should be worried about school. I mean, realistically, like, people are going to date, but I shouldn't be worried about, like, my friend's a counselor for middle school, and the things that these middle schoolers go through in these controlling relationships at 12 and 13 is insane.
It's crazy. I mean, it's that way with, people I work with 18 adults.
It's sick.
Yeah.
And then when you look back at it, a lot of times when they have these meetings with the parents, sometimes the kids are mimicking what they see in their home with their dad or mom or whatever having this control and saying, you're not going to do that. So they go to school and they're telling their little girlfriend, you're not going to do that. Skip class. I said so. Like, what? And it's just, and that's why I think like it's different with that. But as an adult, I'm not really traditional, y'all. I'm sure you can tell already. Like, I'm everything traditional. Like, if a man's like, shut up, I'm like, I'm screaming. Like,
Right.
anything they're
You
telling me,
shut
you shut up.
Yeah.
And it's like, I didn't grow up, like, I grew up, my aunt and uncle raised me. I moved down here from Chicago, and it's a teenager.
Hey.
Yeah, Chicago. And they have 5 kids already, and they're married. They just celebrated their 30th year anniversary. And I'll say one thing to not make it long. I was never taught, none of the girls, I'm the oldest. They have 3 girls, 2 boys. We were never taught, like, women, like, you need to do this. You need to listen. My aunt was not like that. She's the one that's like, no. And my uncle's the one that's like, okay, I'm going to step back. But he'll sometimes, like, if she's taking it too far, he's like, all right, you need to chill out. and then she'll chill out. But we were never taught like that you need to submit, that you need to be a good woman to get a good man, that you need to dress like this and talk like this. Even as pastors' kids, we're pastors' kids, and we were never taught that. And that's one thing that I do appreciate about how I grew up. Granted, my life now is a little different than the way that I grew up. I don't live anything like that. But the way that I saw their marriage growing up, I never saw my uncle yell at her. I never saw him raise his voice. I never saw him tell her, call her out her name. He never did that. He always talked gently to us. He would be, he would discipline us, but it'd be in a way that would be like, he would just talk to us as humans. Mm-hmm. He never told us, hey, you need to go change what you have on. You need, all these things that are like, things like that. He never told us, like, you guys need to talk different so you can get a good man. My aunt always tells this story. She'll say, even in church, she'll be like, I don't know how I'm married. I didn't even think I would be married. So I think, like, as somebody who's not really had successful relationships, there's certain things that I'm like, I'm not going for it, because my uncle would never want me to settle for that. Mm-hmm. That he would never want me to accept that. And I think that's kind of how all of us kids have been living our lives, like, yeah, no. And I'll go to her and I'll be like, hey, I'm going through this, and I've been like going out, and my uncle's like, listen, if you ever want to just go out with somebody for some food, some free food, just come tell your uncle and I'll take you out. You don't have to deal with that. So I definitely think, like, it's just, I don't know. I just have so many different opinions about it, because it's like, I'm not going for that. I'm the girl, like, I'm not going for it. I'm sorry. It's like something in me is just like, no. Maybe it's the Holy Spirit.
It's also outdated. It's super outdated, I think, now. And a lot of females, like, we make more money than males a lot of times now. We have careers.
Hey, should they submit to us? I'm daddy.
What I'm saying is, I think it's such an outdated concept now, because we don't have to put up with that. We don't, you know what I mean? We don't need you.
America,
like, we don't,
anyways.
in America.
Yeah, granted, we're in, the middle of the United States.
Like, we don't need to submit because we can go to college. We can be a single mom. We can do the job thing. We do it, and I don't know.
But can that be a form of toxicity too? I don't need a man.
Yeah, 100%. Ultra independence or like super independent is definitely a trauma response. Yeah. And I think there's a compromise. Like, there is definitely like a middle ground,
Do we hurt these boys growing up when we walk around like talking about I don't need a man?
I mean, that's your own inner issue.
Yeah,
that's your own walls. That's your own things that you probably need to work on.
But I think a lot of women are talking like that in front of their little kids.
I could see it. Yeah.
So,
go ahead. Who said so?
She did.
Oh, you said so. Okay. No, I was just gonna say. I mean, for myself, I am my goal is to make more money than my husband, so I don't need my husband. Mm-hmm. Period. And he knows it. Mm-hmm. And it's not because I don't love him, and it's not because I don't anticipate continuing to raise my children with him and growing old with him. But at the end of the day, I'm still a woman with 2 children, and I will never walk away from my children. So if something does go south in my relationship, I will never put my children in a position to be in a position that I was as a child, that my mother was as a child, because that is why I'm healing from trauma. Mm-hmm. So, yes, strong woman, don't need a man, don't want to need a man. I choose to have you.
That's good.
And yes, it is a trauma response, but I also consider it to be my strength. Mm-hmm. And I hope that I am remedying some trauma so that my daughter can grow up and say, I want to be like my mother. I don't want to need anyone, so that I can truly pick who deserves me.
Yeah.
Who is worth letting into my life, because my life is, perfect as it is. I have everything that I could want. I have everything that I could need, or I'm comfortable, I'm happy. Who can I bring into my happiness? But you really need to know, what does good look like? What does good feel like before you're introducing somebody into your circle? Because if you're not in a good place, if you're not confident, if you're not strong, and you're bringing somebody in who is also not in a great place, y'all are not going to have a good relationship.
Mm-hmm. Now, I think you really hit on a good point, because there are so many women who start out, I mean, I've seen these stories where it's like, damn, that's sad. Where they start out like, I'm in school and they're working, and then they get a guy and he becomes their husband, or maybe just their controlling man, and he's like, I got this, right?
Right.
And it's not even like you have to stay home and you got to serve me. Sometimes it's like you get to stay home and you get to go to the
Right.
spa and you get to go hang out and you get to go all this, right? You have babies, I'll even get you a nanny. Sometimes it's like that level versus like stay home and cook and clean barefoot in the kitchen raising my babies. I mean, there's all kinds of levels to it, right? But what happens is when the relationship goes south,
Right.
she don't have anything to fall back on. It's his
Nothing.
money, it's his bank account. It's only thing she getting is exactly what the judge tells him to give her,
You
right?
get the kids.
And she doesn't have any experience. She can't work a computer hardly. She knows how to get her nails done. So, or she knows how to cook and clean. So we put these females in this place where they're trapped.
Yeah.
They're stuck. Or if he no longer wants her and he tosses her to the curb like garbage, she has nowhere to go. She is completely vulnerable. And a lot of times, those type of men, they'll take the kids too. On top of that, all because
They can.
Yeah.
exactly.
Because
So
it's whoever has the most money and can pay the best lawyer.
And it's all
Right.
forms of control and
Yeah.
manipulation.
It's terrible.
It's
yeah,
multiple levels.
super red flag. Going back to what the kids are seeing at home, young kids. I mean, there's toxicity everywhere, but I mean, I think raising our daughters and helping young girls, and even not even that young, like go get your GED, go work a part-time job, like go take a computer class. It's good advice because you don't know I mean, your man could get hit by a bus. Maybe he's got a gang of life insurance. Maybe he don't. Like we had to be able to like stand on our own, and that should never be a form of like disobedience. And if getting a job and being able to support yourself, going to school and getting an education to be able to support yourself is a form of disobedience or it causes fights in the household, you probably got one you need to get away from.
That's a red flag.
Well, and I also think it's a generational thing. Like, so my grandmother, they say like you marry for money, right? And that's what they say. I mean, and
Two women.
right? Like I've heard that from my, like I've heard that, like you marry for money, and like my mom raising 4 girls, like college was not an option at all. You're going to school, and we didn't even have a say about it. Like you're going to school, you're getting an education, you're doing this. That's why most of the girls in my family, they're doctors, were therapists, were RNs, like lawyers, whatever it is, and I think it's a generational thing. Like it for them, like they maybe heard that, like my mom heard that, I've heard that, and they raise their daughters very differently. Like we went to school, we go to college, we do our own thing. We're all very independent, and I think that's how we raise
That's
our kids
healthy.
now. And so I think it's just like a generational thing too. Like when you know better, you do better, right? And when you know better, you do better. And then I raise my sons very differently. Like my sister raises her kids very differently. So I think it's just a generational thing too, when you think about it.
I was going to say back to the topic of like young girls. I think as a millennial, a difference that I'm seeing between millennials and Gen Z is that as a millennial, we had content geared towards being a teenager, right? We had magazines, we had like TV shows about being a young girl, young woman, taking care of yourself. But now I'm noticing that in this generation, they're like in high school and the content that they're consuming is Instagram and it's TikTok, and the only content on there is like content for like older women. Like, why are young girls getting content saying you need a provider? You're 16 years old. I'm not saying anything's wrong with that, but I know that there was something going on where a 19-year-old girl broke up with her boyfriend because she said he wasn't providing. And it's like, where's the content for young girls? That's where my heart is. Like, what are we teaching our young girls? What outlets do they have to be young girls and not just go be young women? You have the rest of your teenage years to do that. And it definitely does start with family, but what about ones that don't really have family? What resources do we have for them? I don't really think we have a sense of community anymore. I think that's like I don't know, do they still have like boys and girls club?
Not in person, really.
Yeah.
A community is online, I feel like now.
Yeah.
We've really kind of like gotten away from that, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Everybody wants community, but nobody wants to physically show up.
Yeah. Where are the people and the workers?
That's like a whole other topic. We're going to talk about how social media is just taking over society and people don't know how to communicate anymore or be one-on-one. It's terrible.
Definitely. And we have to find ways to build it, because everybody can rely on someone else, but somebody else is relying on you.
Right.
So, and the young girls that you do come across,